Hello, and welcome to Univision Computer's webinar series. This is the second in the series titled Power Platform, Power Apps Made Easy. We will be diving into making a small app in just a few minutes. First, a little about my background. My name is Marie Stavish, and I've been working at Univision on the Business Automation and Intelligence team for over 2 years and have been the team lead for the past year. In my previous life, I taught a variety of math classes from 5th grade all the way through calculus, as well as a variety of computer science classes, including programming and computer-aided drafting. In my spare time, I like to sew and spend as much time outside as possible. Let's jump right into Power Apps. What is Power Apps? Power Apps is a suite of Microsoft products that enable both developers and non-technical users to build custom applications to fulfill various business needs. Power Apps is designed to be inside of a tenant, which is an Office 365 organization. For instance, everyone that signs in as user at univisioncomputers.com is inside of that tenant or organization. Technically, you can use it with users outside of your organization by adding external guest users, but that really isn't recommended due to security reasons. What are the benefits of using Power Apps? Power Apps allows you to build a custom interface to interact with your data. Power Apps is a way to gently guide your users to input data as correctly and efficiently as possible, including pre-populations of fields based on other factors. It can also be a replacement for those ginormous Excel spreadsheets you have stored. You know the ones. You set them all up and lock certain cells, but somehow users still seem to manage to unlock them and write over the formulas. With Power Apps, you can keep users from inadvertently muddling up the data. In addition, it allows users to easily sort, search, and filter data. This is a list of some of the projects that we've built, some large, some small, just to give you some ideas as to how you can use Power Apps. First is a medical peer review system that keeps track of medical reviews using a blind interface between facilities and reviewers. The app is a way for the administrator to keep track of the reviews. They can sort, filter, change the status, and see all the pertinent information about the review in one place with just a click of a button. We've also built a system to keep track of MRI exams. Patients are tracked as to which type of MRI, where it was performed, if they were present for their appointment, the date of the service, and who authorized the MRI. The administrator could then use that information for billing and statistical purposes. Third on the list is the onboarding and offboarding app. The onboarding app gathers and stores pertinent information so computer accounts can be generated with very specific details. The offboarding app gathers information about the user to be disabled so a smooth offboard process can take place. The apps also offer checklists of items for each step of the process and can document when each part is performed. Another app we have built tracks auto body repairs authorizations, signatures, and insurance information. To speak of the wide variety of uses for Power Apps, I wanted to also mention the in-outboard app where with the click of a button, users are clocked in. The app can also show statuses like working from home, working from office, out, etc., along with the expected return date and where they happen to be working for that day. Last on the list is a receipt scanner that scans a receipt using your phone or a computer, asks for a bit of information, and then saves that information in a list for the accounting department. Let's take a look at the list of built-in connections. Here is a short list of the popular connectors that Microsoft offers in the Power Platform. There are now over 1,000 certified connectors. One thing to note is that some of the connectors are premium, which means you have to have a per user or per app license in order to connect to them. And some are free, but they require a subscription outside of the Microsoft platform. I will talk more about licensing later. How do I start to build an app? The first step in building an app is designing your database, which is where you will store your data. What information do you need to store? What data types do those fields need to be? For instance, do you need a simple text field, a list of choices perhaps, yes or no, or maybe a numeric field? After you decide that, the next step is deciding which storage solution you will use to store the data. We usually use either SharePoint, which comes with most Microsoft subscriptions, or Dataverse, which is a built-in storage specifically designed for the Power Platform. Dataverse is usually our first choice, but it does require a premium connector, which means additional licensing. Using SharePoint has no extra cost if you already have a Microsoft license that includes SharePoint. Once you've decided on a storage solution and have made a list of the data fields you need to store, navigate to your storage solution and start building out your database. Let's look at the specifics of our project for today. We are going to build an expense app. Here are some of the fields that I thought might be pertinent in an expense app. I've already created those in my SharePoint list today to save time, but we'll show you those when we jump over to start building our app. Where do I find Power Apps? Go to office.com, click on the waffle. Usually it's in the list of apps, but if not, click on explore all of your apps and then find Power Apps, or just search for Power Apps in the search box. Let's head on over now to the Power Apps editor. Okay, here we are. Here is my SharePoint list that I've already created before today, so we can save some time. Notice I have a paid to category. This is going to be my title column. Title is default in SharePoint, and it acts like in the background, it's always called title, even though I've renamed it to paid to. We've also got a category, which is a choice field, the date of purchase, which is a date field, the amount, which is a numeric field, the receipt and signature, which are both image fields, and then also we're going to keep track of who created the expense and by created by and the date and time that it was created. Created and created by are built-in columns in SharePoint, and those are available to use just like any of the columns that you've made. Let's go ahead and get started building our app. We're going to go to office.com. Remember, we're going into the waffle and we're going to select Power Apps. We're going to click here to create, and we're going to create a blank app. I want to create a blank Canvas app. And I'm going to give this app a name. We're going to call it the Expense app. You can choose whether you want tablet, which is a wider view, or a phone view, which is a more of a portrait, tall, skinny view. We're going to do the tablet today because it'll be easier to see and fit on our screen. Let's take a look around and just see the options that we have. Over here, we have some options, and those are pretty much the options that I have up here as well. So they give us some different ways that we can get to the same place. So we have the undo, the redo. We have cut, copy, paste. We have insert. I'm going to go through this list pretty extensively because some of the stuff in here is pretty cool. So they put up the popular links right here at the top. And then below that, we're going to start looking at exactly some of the other options. So we have the inputs. What types of things can I use to input? So we're going to do, I'm just going to show you some of these. I'm actually going to go ahead and change my background in the themes. Themes over here. Oh, where did it go? My themes disappeared. Oh, there they are. Here's my theme. So we're going to go ahead and select the steel colored today. So in the insert, we have a button. Notice how my button changed color as I changed the theme. That's important because sometimes it can take a lot of time for the formatting. Like it's easy maybe to build the app, but formatting it so it looks nice can be a little more time consuming. Below button, we have a text input. That's just as it says. We can type in that field. We have a pen input, which is what we're going to use later for our signature. A drop down. A combo box. Drop downs in combo box. Notice it's asking me for a data source, so I'm not going to give it that one right now, but drop downs and combo boxes differ in the fact that a combo box, you can select more than one item at a time, where a drop down is just one. We can also do a date picker. A list box. A list box is similar to a combo box where you can pick more than one item, but it looks a little bit differently. Oops, grabbed the wrong one again. We have a checkbox. Next one on the list is the radio box. And just because like the radio box only has 2 items in it now, this is just the sample. And so you can put as many items in that radio box as you need. A toggle button. A slider. We have a rating. And we also have a timer. So I'm just going to go ahead and click play up here in the top right-hand corner, and that's going to allow us to see what the user would see on their end. So we can click the button, we can put some text input in there. We can look at our drop down. Here's some examples of selecting more than one option. Our combo box, again, we can select more than one item. Our slider, that maybe would tell us like how many lines that we would want to view or something like that. In our date, we can pick our date and say okay. Checkbox, radio buttons, here's our toggle, and there's our Likert scale. Go ahead and pop out of there. Going to remove all of those and just look through a few more of the menus and menu items. So once we get through the inputs, I'm going to close that down and look at how we can display. We can display something in a text label. We can do HTML text. In layout, we can do galleries. So a couple that we use most often are a vertical gallery, and it's asking me again to connect to my data source, but I'm just going to ignore that now. I'm going to go ahead and put in the horizontal gallery. So the difference between the vertical is the vertical one you can see lists the items up and down, where the horizontal lists them across. And that can be helpful in making your app more user-friendly or more appealing to the eye. So after our layouts, we have media. So we can see images, we can display images, we can display 3D objects. I have to show you this one. This one is super cool. So if I click on play up here, I can drag that 3D image around. I have some ideas for that. We won't be using that today, but I think it was still pretty cool and wanted to show you that. We can also select a camera so we can take pictures, a measuring camera, a barcode reader, videos right from Microsoft Stream, audios, microphone, add pictures, import, export, do a PDF viewer. We've used that for some clients. It's pretty cool, the things that you can do with the PDF viewer. We also have about every icon you could imagine. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through this pretty quickly, and so you can see some of those options. After icons, we'll go and see some shapes. We can fill those with different colors if we want. We can make them different sizes. And the rest I'm going to just leave for you to explore on your own. We won't touch any of those today, but there are some other pretty cool things in there also, where you can add Power BI if you're familiar with that. Here's one place that we can add our data. We can also add it over here on this button. This is our tree view of everything. Right now, I just have one screen in my tree view. Here's a place where we can get our new screens if we need more than one screen. I showed you the theme, some pretty cool colors. You can also generate your custom one, but that takes a little bit more than what we're going to do today. We can change background colors. We can change the background image by uploading some, and then we have settings. Over here on the right, we're going to look at properties and some of the advanced properties as we go. So let's go ahead and get started building our app. I'm going to insert a rectangle to start with. Notice that it formats it already to my color scheme, so I don't have to go in there and change that. I'm also going to add a text label. We go ahead and change that color right away over here so that you can see that. I'm going to make it the gray. So when we make it, it's a particular size, and we want to make that larger so we can see it. I'm going to make it about 40, and I'm also going to center it. And then I'm going to come up here and change that text to say expense app. Now, what all do we need for an expense app? Well, we need a place to add our expenses. We probably want to be able to edit those. We want to maybe be able to remove those, and we also want to view a list of those. So let's start with the add part. So I am going to insert an icon, the plus icon. And this is sort of like a button because it has something called an on select. If we look up here to the top left, in the on select, we can say if we click on that, we want it to do X. So what we want to do is we want it to navigate to another screen, and we haven't made that screen, so I'm just going to leave that blank for a second, and I'm going to go down here and make a new screen. I'm going to rename this to the add screen, and I'm going to rename screen 1 to my home screen. So on my home screen, again, I want to navigate to the add screen. And notice as I started typing, the IntelliSense popped up. That's super handy as we go along. I'm going to go ahead and change the color of that over here. Okay, so now if I click on that, it's going to take me over to this blank screen. Let's go ahead and go back to our home screen, and I want to select my, not my icon, I want to select my label and my rectangle. I want to copy those, and I'm going to bring them over so my app looks similar and consistent throughout. So I got the same exact header, and now I'm going to click off of that, go back into my text, and I'm going to say add expense. Okay, so now all we need is a place to add those. So I'm going to come back up here to insert, and I'm going to insert the edit form. Pull that down, and resize that a bit. I'm going to leave a little room at the bottom because we also need a place to put the buttons where we're going to submit it, or maybe we want to cancel. Notice I don't have any data connected to it yet. We can go one of the three places, over here on the left, up here at the top of the screen, or we can come over here and we can look for our SharePoint connector. Remember, that's where we have our data source. We're going to grab that data connector. And the webinar demo is where I have that stored. And I'm going to use, there's several lists in there. I'm going to use the expense app list, and I'm going to go ahead and connect to that. It's going to take a little bit, and it's going to pre-populate all of the items, all of those columns that I have in there. So notice I talked about the title before, and up here it's title, but I renamed that to paid to earlier. I want to rename that back to paid to, but notice that it's all grayed out here. I can't edit it, so I'm going to go into advanced, and I'm going to have to unlock that card before it will let me type in there. So instead of parent.displayName, I'm going to, instead of parent.displayName, I'm going to add paid to. Okay, so we have the paid to, we have the category, we have the amount, we have the date of purchase, we have the receipt, the signature, and we have something called attachments, but I didn't make that. But what happens is there's a built-in field called attachments, and it's just automatically going to add that. So I went over here and clicked on fields. We have 7 selected. I'm going to just remove attachments because we don't want that today. We're going to do our own with the receipt and the signature. So the signature one has tap or click to add a picture. Well, we don't really want to add a picture. We want to add a signature field. So I'm going to click in here. Again, that card is locked. So I'm going to unlock that card so I can add and remove some stuff from it. If I click in here, you can see over on the left, there's my add picture. I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to remove the image 4 because I'm going to replace that with the pen input. Right there. There. Notice I have these 2 little red circles with white X's. Those are never good. That's telling me that I have an error. So let's go check those out and see what that error is. So it's mad about image4.image because, so this is looking for the update, but I deleted image 4, but I'm going to put pen input 2 in there instead, and that made it happy. Let's do the same over here. So this is telling us like how high it's going to like adjust automatically. So instead of image 4, we want to base that again on pen input 2. There's the IntelliSense, and it's giving me that option. And now we've fixed all of our errors. I don't really like the way that this looks, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move it down. I'm still in the advanced. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and notice that the X is 2 and the Y is 1. They start counting at 0, so we have 0, 1, 2 columns and 0, 1 rows. I'm going to change that to the 0x because I want to bring it all the way back to the left-hand side. And my Y, I want to be 1 more. I want to push that down. So there we go. I can make that a little wider so we have a wider spot to do our signature. And now I'm pretty much set to be able to add an expense. However, we don't have any boxes when I push play. So we have to tell it that we want a new form. So I'm going to go back here to my home screen. And on the select of this plus sign, I'm going to tell it that I want a new form. And it just removed, and the form name, if I look over here on the left-hand side, is form 1. So new form, It removed my navigate when I pressed tab for my IntelliSense, so I'm going to just put that back. Semicolons are optional for the last line, but not optional for the other lines. So let's look what happens now when I press it. There we go. There is all of our input fields. So I can go ahead and I can add some text. I can find category. I can put an amount in for gas, possibly the date that I purchased the gas. I can add a receipt to that. I got some blank receipts in here. And I can also sign that. Oh, but wait, I don't have a submit button. So let's go ahead and add a submit button. So I'm going to come up here and add a button. I want to add 2 buttons because I want to have one to cancel in case I don't want to submit it, and I want one to submit that form. I'm going to come back over here to properties and I'm going to change button. I'm going to make the left one the cancel, and I'm going to change the color of that fill. I'm going to make it red just so you know that you might lose some data in that if you cancel. On button, I'm going to title that submit. Now we just have to tell it what to do. So on submit, I want to submit form, and remember that that was named form 1. It only gave me that one option. After I'm done submitting, I want to navigate back to the home screen. And if I cancel, I just want to navigate back to the home screen. Okay, let's see what happens. I cancel, I'm back there. Let's go back in. Notice I didn't tell it to reset, so all of my information is still there. I'm going to go ahead and press submit. So if we're lucky, it submitted that to the data source, but now I maybe want to view that. So let's figure out how to view that data that's been submitted. I'm going to insert a gallery. Here's my gallery. Make that a little bit bigger. Notice it has some lorem ipsum, like just some sample text in there. Over here, I have image title and subtitle selected. I think that's okay because we have a receipt image that we maybe want to display. And so I'm going to go ahead and connect my data source, which is the expense app list that's a SharePoint. I can see it has that SharePoint icon. And there's our Easy Street Fuel receipt that we have. There's the receipt showing up. There's who it was paid to, the category. But I want to add all of my other stuff. So this fuel one is pretty wide. I'm going to just drag that back. And I'm going to make that shorter. I'm also going to make the paid to shorter. And for now, I'm going to remove this little kind of like a details button. We could pop that open and make another screen. I've got another plan for that. But let's add some of these. I'm going to go ahead and just copy the fuel one. So I copied it and pasted it. In addition to fuel, I want the category. I want the amount. I'm going to paste again. I want the date that it was purchased. Oops. I also want the date that it was submitted. And I want who it was submitted by. So now they all say category of fuel. So up here, notice that I have category and I have dot value. When you're using a choice field, you have to select the dot value. Otherwise, it'll give you one of those little red circles again with the white dots in it. So up here, this item is the item of every line. So it's pretty cool because we can just say this item as opposed to item number 2 or 3 or 4 in the list and tell it what we would like to do with that. So I'm going to back up and I'm going to re-put the dot. Here are all the options. Here is everything that SharePoint saved when I submitted that. So let's pick the amount for this one. Let's pick the date for this one. So notice if I start typing, it'll give me that IntelliSense. It changed it to the date. Over here, I want created on. That is going to give me the date, or just created. Yes, it is. And I want created by. Oh, notice that I'm getting that red error again. Now what? Okay, so created by is a person field. And if I put the dot, here's all of the information that's related to that user or that person that submitted it. I'm going to ignore claims for now, but we could display their department, their display name, their email, their job title, and even their picture. So let's pick display name for now. So now we have that all set up. I'm going to go ahead and submit another one. Let's submit Minnie's Restaurant. And I'm going to pick the category of dining. And let's do $45.52. We'll pick the date. Let's go grab one of our fake receipts again. And we'll sign in the little box and submit that. Notice that it just added it right away. So we have our picture of our receipt. Oh, I know what I wanted to put on here. I also wanted to put the signature on here. So notice that if I come back here, I can click here and I can click here, but it's not letting me click on the second one. All of your editing must be done in the first one. So I'm going to grab those two and I'm going to move those over a little bit. So I have room to put in the signature. If I copy this, this is a text label. It's going to give me my signature as a text field. I don't want the text field. I actually want the image. So I'm going to highlight this top guy again. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to pick image. And Power Apps was smart enough that it actually put my signature in there because that's one of the only two image fields we have, and we're already displaying the receipt. So it automatically grabbed that image. And here's what that looks like, this item dot signature. All right, we have where we can add it and keep track of it. We can view them. What if we want to edit it? And what if we want to remove an item because it was a mistake? So let's put some icons in here. Let's do an edit pen. Put it in kind of a weird color and it's kind of large. I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to make it 50 by 50. And I'm going to change the color to that blue that we've been using. And I'm also going to add a trash can. In case we want to remove it. I'm going to also make that one 50 by 50. Or not. Try that one more time. I'm going to change the color. This time I'm going to make that the red. So we know that, you know, there might be something bad happening that we don't want to happen. In order to delete that, I'm going to go back to the on select up here. And on select, I want to remove. This time I have to give it the data source. The data source is the expense app list in SharePoint. And I want to remove this item. If we were doing an actual app and we had a bunch of users, we would probably want to just make this button do a pop-up and say, are you sure that you want to remove this? And then we have the edit button. So on the click of that one, I want to navigate to the edit screen. which we haven't made yet, but I'm going to type that in. And I want to set that item to, I have to set the item to get the this item in our list. So we'll do that in a bit. I'm going to make a new screen. I'm going to minimize that so we don't have so far to go. I'm going to rename this one to Edit Screen. I'm going to copy the header over. And paste it here. And instead of add expense, I'm going to say edit expense. I need that same form that we have, but this time it's going to be an edit. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this form because it's all set up the way I want it. And I'm going to put it on the edit screen. Take a little bit to put that in there. Now we need to we have the data source set up here, but we need to tell it which item that we clicked on the home screen. So I'm going to come down here to the item, and we have to go back to the home screen and we have to look and see what the name of that gallery is. The gallery on the home screen is Gallery 3. So we are going to set that item to gallery3.selected. And there's the one, it just pre-populated that. So if I go back to the home screen and see which one is like bolded, that's the one that we're getting. If I want Minnie's Restaurant, I can edit Minnie's Restaurant, and there we go. We also would need a way to submit that. So I'm going to grab these buttons off the ad screen and paste them over to the edit screen. I have to make sure that I'm submitting the correct form. So on submit, it's submitting form 1, but if I come down here in my expense screen, my form is actually form 1_1. So I need to change that to form 1_1. So I'm going to change the amount to $47 and submit that. So now you can see that it's changed to $47. Looks kind of icky. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to format this. So I'm going to do a concatenate. And I'm just going to put a $sign in front of this item and close that up. And now it looks a little bit nicer with the formatting. So there we've built a basic app and we've done a little bit of formatting, and there's a lot of other formatting you can do along with like bolding, italicizing, making your fonts different sizes, different colors. You can also highlight a line. Maybe you want to know if someone has submitted an expense over $500 or over $1,000. You can change the color of these lines. You can put that if then condition into the template fill and switch that there. Okay, let's go back over to the presentation. And we'll finish up where we left off over here. Give me 1 second. I think it restarted on me. Okay. We can see some of the resources. I wanted to give you some other resources that you can use. Some of the resources that we use if we get stuck, one of my team members is going to drop those in the chat so you can copy and save those if you like. Shane Young, April Dunham, Reza Durrani, Matthew Devaney, they are all great resources, and they each kind of have a little bit of different presentation. So I think you'll find one of them that you can relate to. Finally, let's talk a little bit about licensing. Most Microsoft 365 license plans include Power Apps at no extra charge. Some of those are the Microsoft Business Basic, Business Standard, Business Premium, the education licenses, as well as the nonprofits. SharePoint as a data source is not considered premium, and it comes with most of your Microsoft licensing as well. So as long as you have that Microsoft licensing, you're likely to get the SharePoint included in that. That's no extra charge. However, if you decide you want to use Dataverse or need to use that or one of the premium connectors, the premium connectors require additional licensing, and you can get that with either a per app, per user, per month, which is generally what we end up using, and those are $6, or you can buy the Power App.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Give us just a moment as we rejoin.
Just about back, I think. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. Back to licensing. Yeah, so Dataverse is a good data source, but it is a premium connector. Learning Power Apps takes longer than an hour, but my hope is that this webinar has sparked an idea and has given you enough information to get you started building your own apps. If you happen to have a complex project that you need help with, feel free to schedule a no obligation discovery meeting with us through the contact info in this slide. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. So go ahead and drop those in the Q&A chat if you have any questions.
We already have one.
Great.
So Andrew asked, you mentioned Dataverse as a data source is preferred over SharePoint. Why is that?
So Dataverse, SharePoint sites are pretty much open to everyone in the company, or you can set those SharePoint, but you also have to have permissions to like read and write to the SharePoint list. So setting those can be a little trickier. It's a little more straightforward with Dataverse, and not everyone can just go to like the Dataverse site like they can in SharePoint. And like SharePoint lists, you could just look at the data. You could inadvertently delete it. So in that sense, we probably prefer Dataverse, I guess. Any other questions?
So far, Cliff says, thank you.
You're welcome, Cliff. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate having you along today. Again, we're super happy to answer questions and share what we do. We are very passionate about our jobs. My team and I have a great team, and we work so well together, and we have been able to make some pretty cool stuff. And so we're hoping that you jump on that bandwagon and get as excited about the Power Platform as we are and see all of its potential and uses.
Let's see here. Cliff asked, will you be sharing the recording?
Yes, I believe the recording will come out automatically as soon as we'll end the meeting, and then it takes some time, I think, to render. And then after that, the webinar/meeting will send that out automatically. If not, ping us and we'll definitely get that over to you.
Questions?
Any other questions? Give you just a few minutes to see if you can think of any other ones. I'll talk a little bit about our next webinar. Our webinar next month will be geared toward those of you that use PowerShell on a regular basis. If you are a PowerShell user, you'll definitely want to sign up for that webinar. We'll get that information out soon. And our fourth one in April, if you use Teams, that's going to be a really great webinar. We've got some great ideas on how we can help you leverage Teams and make the most out of it in your company. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you join us again next month or in April for our fourth webinar. Have a great day, everyone.